Hi Mechanic Stents. This video is going to cover our tire machine. We use this for removing tires from rims. While the tire is removed, we can replace valve stems, service TPMS sensors. We're going to start with the anatomy of the machine. On the bottom there's 3 pedals. On top we go up to our rotating assembly or table. This is where we mount our tire to. You can see armatures off to the right hand side, which are used for removing the tire from the rim. We use them as a lever or a leverage point. The pedal on the left is controlling the clamps that will grab the tire. The pedal in the middle works our bead brake on the right hand side. And the rightmost pedal will rotate the table itself. When I press the left pedal, you can see the clamps move out. And when I press it again, they will move back in. To use the bead brake, I'm pressing the middle pedal. I would insert my tire here and press and hold on this pedal. In order to get the table to rotate, I press and hold the rightmost pedal. This is what we refer to as our duck head. This will sit on top of the rim and be used to pry the top of the tire over, as well as aid in removing the tire from the rim itself. On the left-hand side of the machine, we have a pedal that allows us to add air into the tire. Pressing down halfway will add air through the hose. Fully will allow air to come up from the bottom of the table and seat the bottom bead of the tire on the rim. So to start, the first thing we need to do is remove any wheel weights that are on the tire. If the wheel weights are still on the tire, they will jam into the duck head and damage the rim itself. We can do this while we are removing the valve core. We need to have the air out of the tire itself. So in this case, the valve core is what's called a Schrader type valve. We remove it and place it just out of the way, and then we will remove our wheel weights. Next, once the air is sufficiently out of the tire, we're going to transition to the right-hand side of the machine and use the bead brake to start removing the tire from the rim. One thing of note is that most modern vehicles use TPMS sensors. That stands for Tire Pressure Monitoring System. So we want to stay roughly 6 inches away from the valve stem and be cautious about braking the bead too aggressively so that we do not damage any TPMS sensors that are inside. I position the tire between the blade and I'm stepping on the middle pedal. And I'm going to do this at about 4 points in the tire or until the tire itself has unseated from the rim. I flip the tire and repeat the same process on the inside. Once the bead has been unseated from the rim, I will put the tire up onto the table, press the left pedal, press down gently and have it centered in the clamps. The tire is now secure. I will place the duck head just touching the tire and then slightly turn it away with the knob on my left-hand side there. I'm now going to use our tire lever. There's 2 sides. I want this to be pointing down. I'm going to hook the bead of the tire and I'm going to pry on the bill of the duck. With my left hand, I'm pressing on the opposite side of the tire and pulling across. I press down on the lever and then press and hold the rightmost pedal. When the tire lever becomes free, you can pull it out. I'm going to repeat this process for the bottom bead. Same end of the tire lever goes down, hooks the bottom bead, and then I simply walk the tire up with both of my hands, push across the tire, and then press and hold the rightmost pedal. Now our tire has been removed from the rim. We could replace the valve stem, we could patch the tire itself. It's always good to take a look at where the bead seats into the rim itself. We want to make sure that there's no corrosion or rust. These are areas where it would potentially be leaking air as well. To mount the tire, I'm pointing out here that some tires are what we call directional, meaning that they are left-hand side or right-hand side tires. This is something to just take note of, and we'll discuss this probably later. I'm applying now tire lube. This is going to aid in our installation process. It allows the tire to seat better on the rim, as well as it allows it to slide around and actually get over top of the same size diameter rim. What I'm pointing out here is that I want the bead to be on top of the back of the duck head and underneath the billet itself. I'm now going to press down and hold the pedal with my right foot, applying a downward pressure to make sure that the bead itself always stays below what we call the drop center of the rim. I'm now doing this on the top part, making sure that the bead of the tire stays below the drop center of the rim. So there are multiple ways to install a tire. In this case, what I just did was strictly manual. I didn't use any assistance. However, some tires will require more strength to install, so we have to work smarter, not harder. We can use the tire lever as a lever and aid in giving us extra downward pressure on the top of the tire. I'm going to use the other side of the tire lever, hooking the inside of the rim. I want to make sure that the tire and the lever form a 90 degrees, and then I'm going to simply walk around with the tire and it will seat itself on top of the rim. The last way for us to install a tire is using our attachments on the actual machine itself. These are used for low profile tires. They will essentially replicate my hands or my hands in another person's. As the tire profile gets smaller, they become a lot more challenging to install onto the rim. So I will set up the one which is going to ride by the duck head itself, and then the other part of the arm will follow the tire around. This uses pneumatics. It will apply a downward pressure onto the tire. And once I have that set, I'm going to add a little bit more tire lube and then press and hold on that right hand pedal. Once the tire is seated, I simply just remove the attachments out of the way. Now I can remove my duck head. I pull down on this lever and it will spring up. Make sure it's out of the way. And now I have to install the valve. I have two options. I can inflate the tire without installing the Schrader valve, or I can install the valve and then add air. This might be challenging sometimes on bigger tires. If there's a large amount of volume needed to inflate or seat the tire, I suggest that you do not install the valve, inflate the tire first, and then install the valve. That's exactly what I'm doing here. So in my right hand, I have the valve core, and my left is holding the air hose onto the actual valve stem itself. My left foot is pressing halfway down on the pedal, and I'm watching the gauge to inflate it to the proper pressure. Once it's at or near the proper pressure, I'll pull the hose off, slide in my valve core, and then fine-tune the pressure when the tire is mounted back onto the car. Finally, I'm going to press the leftmost pedal, and that will let the tire out of the clamps from the table itself, and I can move on to the remaining 3 tires.